Okay, so what I plan to do, so I'm going to talk a little bit about learning circles today. And learning circles are a structure for collaborative work. And the truth of the matter is we always want people to work together, but we really don't have very many models or ideas for how people can work together effectively. We somehow think it's enough to put people in a group and say, go and work. And we have various strategies that we use when we put people in groups. Sometimes we identify a leader and a recorder, so we give people different roles. Sometimes we tell people to get into a group, divide up the task, and then come back and report to the task. And that's really, or report to the group, and that's really not collaboration, that's cooperation around a task. But you're not really working together, you're not really building knowledge as a group. So I developed the model of learning circles actually for working, initially it was global learning circles for classrooms working around the world together, and we'll go and look at the Online Learning Circles website, and I'll show you some examples of how people have been working together in learning circles. But more recently, I found that Learning Circle works effectively in the university teaching, both and among professionals, and my teaching is actually a cross between both, since I teach people who are in mid-career, so they are professionals. So I'll show you an example of it working effectively in a college course, and I'll show you how we use it in teaching action research. But before I do that, I want to give you some sense of the model. So I put together a relatively short PowerPoint slide to go over the model. And if you have questions as we're going through it, you can click on the little happy face. Is that where the hand? No, the flat hand is the hand raised. So if you have a question and you can just try asking it. But if you want to get my attention, if you click on the little hand, that will help, tell me that you have a question. Also, if I ask you if you all understand, you see that little check mark? Do you all see the hand? If you do the check mark and say yes, then I'll know you all saw the hand. Just a little play with the little options that are here in case we use them later on. So Alan sees the hand, Hong sees the hand, Jenny sees it. Okay, so
yes, I see the hand too. I see the hand too.
Okay, good. All right, so let's see if I can get this. This is the slides are causing us trouble right to the last minute, and thanks to Alan, we have them, I think, working. Although, yeah, that's right. Okay, so this is the opening page of the Online Learning Circle website. And as I said a little bit later, we will go and look at the website. It has a description of the model and how it works. It has examples of the model being used in elementary and high school, with university teachers, in teacher learning circles, with action researchers, which is in my in Pepperdine courses in the Learning Technologies program, and then with groups of evaluators, and then there's some other models of learning circles. So basically a learning circle is a highly interactive, participatory structure for organizing group work. So that's what I said when I started out. This is a way to help students learn how to work together effectively. The goal is to build, share, and express knowledge through a process of open dialogue and deep reflection around issues or problems with a focus on shared outcomes. Online Learning Circle takes advantage of social networking tools, and that's what makes it effective for an online program, but it also can be used in classrooms, in regular classrooms, and across classrooms. Learning circles always have a final product, something that is shared out, that is the result of people having worked together. So I'm going to start, as I said, by describing the model. And I'm going to use this little layout to help you see what part of the model I'm talking about. And as I'm talking about the different parts, I will highlight them in this gold Pepperdine color so that we will have a sense of what parts of the model I'm describing. So let's start with when you form the groups. Often when you do group work, people have a sense that you want to get people who have similar backgrounds together. So in our program, for example, we bring in people who are mid-career in any profession that uses technology. So there might be a temptation to put the primary school teachers together, the high school teachers together, the corporate people together, the NGOs or government or military people together, right? But we don't do that. We really work hard at creating the most diverse group of people we can. And the reason for that is that you really want to have people who bring different perspectives, different backgrounds. We're pretty clear on, when we say diversity, that having people from different cultural backgrounds helps or enriches the conversation, but it also, having people from diverse economic or sector backgrounds can really enrich the conversation. So when you form learning circles, there obviously has to be something they share in common, or they wouldn't be working together. But within the group of people that you have working together and bringing students together in a class, they share the larger theme or concept of the class topic. So then you would divide them up, increasing diversity. And then the important thing of learning circles is that it's around a project, a particular project or a set of projects they're going to be working on for a specific period of time. This is not an ongoing, a lot of people are forming learning communities or communities of practice that they expect to go on indefinitely. Learning circles are definitely a project-based learning community. They're going to end, they have a schedule, they're going to end at a particular time, and they're arranged around a set of projects. Move my little. So the thing that makes them different than other ways of putting people together is this individual ownership and group responsibility. So each member of the learning circle sponsors a project. And the circles, so each participant, each member brings to the table an idea for a project that they're willing to be the leader of. The group then looks at those and says, are these reasonable projects given what the people want to do and given what the group wants to do? So there's some negotiation of the scale of the project, the ideas that people have, helping them shape their ideas, because the group is responsible for all of the projects. The circle members participate in all of the projects. And then the projects obviously are linked around a theme, and the projects run concurrently with leadership of by each of the people in the circle. So what you have is this two-part system. Instead of one leader, everybody who's in the learning circle is a leader of a part of the group work. But everybody does the group work just because they're the owner of that part. So I said there were a lot of different models for group work, and one is, you get the group together, they divide up the tasks, and then they all go away and do their individual task and bring it to the group. That's one way. And the other way is that a group has a single task, and they try to coordinate, but one person is the leader, and that person has all the responsibility to get everybody else to work. Everybody else figures it's the leader's job to get it done and kind of leave the leader to actually finish it. And there's a lot of disappointment because the leader can't get anybody to do their work, and a lot lot of push and pull. So this is a bringing of those two models together. So everybody in the circle is a leader, and everyone is responsible for doing all the projects. So if a circle has 4 or 5 people in it, it has 4 or 5 projects that are running concurrently, led by different people. Is that clear? Does anyone have questions about that? I don't see any hands up, so I will continue. Talk a little bit about distributed leadership, and then the circle norms and expectations. We were already discussing distributed leadership in talking about the group responsibility. Each participant is leading some portion of the work. So if these colors around this circle, let's see, I guess I can actually have a little, there we go, I can actually draw. Isn't that fun? So if each of these colors around this circle represent a different project, each of these arrows then represent the participant leader, and this space is the group work. Now, there are a set of norms and responsibilities that people have to have when they participate in learning circles. So first, and probably most critical, you have to create a sense of trust. And that's easier to do when you have students in face-to-face settings, although it doesn't make it simple. You really do have to spend a little bit of time away from the content of the course, worrying about what would it take to build a community of learners from the students that are in the classroom. The culture of the classroom is one in which students expect to be able to play a passive role. And trust actually develops when people share things about themselves that are different than their name, and spend a little bit of time talking about why, how they feel about something, or what their attitudes or ideas are about the topic of the class. So it might be you divide people up into groups. You want them to spend some amount of time sharing their experience that are related to whatever the topic of your course is. So if you were teaching a course on ethics, you might have students share an ethical dilemma that each one of them faced, and that would be a way to have them start to share their stories. When somebody else carries your stories, that sort of moves them closer into the arena of friendship. Friends are really people who carry our stories with them all the time. They also have shared experiences with us, but knowing our stories and taking the time to actually remember them is really what starts to move somebody out of the category of acquaintance and into the category of a trusted friend. Respect is clearly important, and you've got to work a little bit. We have to work a little bit harder, because when our students initially come into the program, they don't kind of get that there might be any overlap between a person who works in the military and a second-grade teacher. And so both trying to help them create an open mind and flexible thinking and respect for the differences takes a little bit of work. And if we have time later, I'll show you some screencasts that I've put together to help students think about what I call the culture of knives, the culture of nice, and the culture of critique, and what it means to create a really healthy culture of critique. And then reciprocity. This goes very closely with distributed leadership, because if I'm leading a project and all the group and everybody in the group is helping that project move forward, I incur responsibility to each one of them to make their project successful. So there's a sense of, if you help me on my project, I'm going to help you on your project. Okay, and that takes us to the last two bits about the model that I wanted to talk about, knowledge building dialogue and circle products. Knowledge building dialogue is in a course situation, and we didn't really have a chance to find out what kinds of courses each of you teach and how large they are. But in a large course, there isn't much time for talk. If you divide the class up into smaller groups, then there's much more time for people to actually put their ideas on the table and have other people argue with them or pull the ideas apart in a way that's really productive. And that part of students actually commenting on other people's ideas is probably the hardest thing to get going. But once it gets going, it's just really effective. And I'll show you a voice thread where we have students presenting their products for their first session, which is their logic models, and then the discussion that they have around their logic models. But the idea is a product of some kind. It can be a print publication, a website, a report, a graphic, in this case a logic model, or any kind of media product, but there's something that the group is then responsible for creating collectively. And when the students finish their last learning circle, we have a series of learning circles, but their last learning circle, they actually present their work at an Action Research Technology conference that we set up for them. And in this way, they present their work by learning circles. I should have scrolled down so that you could see that each group of 4 or 5 who are in a learning circle present their work together in a symposium. And so there's a sense, and they each introduce each other, and there is a sense that they collectively are responsible for these ideas. And finally, part of the model is a set of phases. So there's the opening of the circle. That's where you have to worry about building trust and reciprocity and the plans for how you're going to work together. This is the planning the circle project. So each person brings to the table what they think they will be getting the group to help them do. And then this is where the biggest part of the circle work is exchanging work on projects, and then publishing or presenting the work and reflecting on the process. So that's the relative time. Learning circles can be of different lengths, but that's sort of the relative time in a learning circle that you spend on each of these different parts. Okay, so that's the sort of description of the model. Any questions at this point about the model or how you think it might work in your classes? Or I heard a hand raised. I don't see it.
Hi, it's Anne. Can you hear me?
Anne? Yep.
Great. I was curious about, are these all set up online, or do you set these up when you're face-to-face? I think there are some dynamics there that are different. So I'd like to know your comments.
In our program, we have a blended program. So we have students together for 4 days, 3 times during the program, at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end. So when we have them together, we immediately put them in small groups, learning circles. And in the 4 weeks, they have a challenge to create a video and solve a technical problem with robots. And so they get a chance to work together face-to-face before they work together online. I have worked in situations where I've worked in all sorts of different learning circle arrangements, and you can in a class situation, since most of you teach in a regular class, after the sort of introduction of the course or whatever, I would then divide students into learning circles, and the communication between learning circles, which I think you're getting at, can be different depending upon what kinds of tools that are available to you. I have the learning circles in our program meeting weekly online using Google Plus or Illuminate. It doesn't really matter what tool they use to have their synchronous sessions. And then in Sakai, they have a project page that has forums arranged by learning circles. So they have discussions in learning circles, both in Sakai and face-to-face. In a classroom, you would probably have students meeting outside of the classroom in their learning circles. I have the students meeting, so I take a class and divide it up into learning circles. I can't meet with all of those circles any more than when you divide a class up into groups in a classroom. You can't be with every one of the groups simultaneously. They're all talking and you move around. And so the way I do that online is that every third week I meet with a circle. So they meet twice alone, and then every third week I meet with them. And even if I could meet with every circle every week, I don't think that's the best way to do it. I find that the students develop much more skills in actually doing the kind of critical and knowledge-building work when I'm not there than when I am there. Because when I'm there, people have a tendency to want to present to me, and they want my ideas. And when I'm not there, they go to each other for ideas. And they soon realize that in some cases, the people next to them have way better ideas than I do. And they've had experiences that are much more helpful for sorting out the problems that they're working with. So I think it helps create a sense of, group productiveness to meet without the professor.
Great. Thanks so much.
Other questions? Okay. Feel free to interrupt at any time if you have questions, because now we're going to kind of go into just kind of chatting about learning circles. This is the website, so you can see on the website, I've just clicked the model, and you can see that there's a brief history of learning circles, a description of the online model. It pretty much goes through the same kinds of things that I just talked about, so if you felt like I rushed through them or you didn't really get them, you can see that they're all described here in pretty much detail in the model. So that's Robert. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Mine is just spinning and saying waiting for web tour. Were you displaying something that I should be looking at?
Oh, yes. I thought that you could see that. Are people not seeing it?
It's just a little window that's spinning and saying waiting for web tour. So it's probably my computer. I'll work that out. Okay, but I heard what you said, so we can move on.
Are other people seeing who's seeing the online learning circles on their screen right now? Yes or no, for those that are seeing it. Okay, so most people are seeing it, but not. Jenny, are you seeing it? Yeah, okay. So Robert, I'm sorry it's not coming up for you, but you can just, if you can open a separate browser and put onlinelearningscircles.org, you will see it. And what I've been doing, I forgot you're not actually scrolling with me when I scroll down the page, but I'm assuming that all of you can scroll. So if you go from top to bottom, you will see pretty much the same topics that I just described laid out in the model. And then the second link, the learning circle phases, I also have laid out what are the kinds of activities that you do at each stage of the learning circle So exchanging work on projects, sharing the outcomes, getting ready. So setting the stage gives you pretty much detailed information about how to begin with learning circles, and some examples. If you go to opening the circle, so are you seeing now opening the circle? I'm hoping that we are that there is a tour going on and you are actually following me. In opening the circle, then there's a set of examples of how to build trust. Somebody want to talk?
I just want to say that I see it now. Thank you.
Okay, good. There are examples of activities to accomplish trust building. So some of the things that we do in the camp atmosphere that we have, and other ideas that I've generated from doing workshops, I've put up there so that you can see how you might get a group to bond because it's really important that the group feel comfortable. Sharing ideas is really more difficult than we think it is. Ideas are things we hold very close to our minds and hearts, and very rarely are asked to share them, unfortunately. You can go through 20 years of educational experience and hardly be asked for your ideas, or at least not be asked for them on a daily basis. And so we aren't really comfortable. Students are often not very comfortable sharing ideas, and it takes a lot of respect and trust for people really to be open. And in order for us to really benefit from the different intellectual and educational and work experiences that people bring to the table, you need to get people to a point where they trust each other, that when they share these half-baked ideas, they won't be made fun of, or they will be taken as they are, ideas that are in formation. Robert? Robert, you got your hand up. You want to say something?
I'm sorry, I didn't have my talk on. Yes, in Ella, I have students do online work, but it's they're responding to a prompt or a question. Have you ever evaluated students just based on their response to a question or inquiry online only?
I do evaluate their online discussions, yes. They have discussions in Sakai, and I look for both the quality and the frequency of their participation in the Sakai forums. And at regular intervals, I use the statistics to see who's, hardly or, minimally there, and who are the most active. I pretty much know who are the most active because I've been, reading them and commenting on them. But so as I comment on, I have a picture of the students. I print out the pictured list of students, and that's on my desk at all times. And if somebody writes a particularly compelling message, one that really gets my attention, I put a little star next to their picture. And that's my way of kind of keeping track of because some people have very low message counts, but they are really thoughtful when they do write. And so if I go check the number of messages and see somebody's low, then I look to my chart and say, well, were those messages of, did they independently, without me thinking about it, get me to really notice them? And if they did, then that kind of, cancels out frequency with depth of knowledge. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so does anyone have probably there isn't anyone here that has elementary school interest. Oh, Anne, you had a question.
Yeah, I'm not on the elementary education
Yeah.
track yet. So first of all, nice cat. I'm seeing your cat.
Oh.
And second of all, you get to know people, right, on their videos. But second of all, do you actually have the students read about the learning circles before you put them in it? So, for example, go to the website and learn something about this.
I didn't used to, because I didn't used to have it all laid out like this. But now that I do, they don't read it before they have their camp experience, but they do read it once we start formally with learning circles. I have them, look at this site. We talk about what it means to be, in their case. Let's go to this University Student Learning Circle. This is not my course, but a course that I helped somebody put together called Global Conversation, and then we'll come back, because doing action research is a little less collaborative because they do have their individual projects. But, in some cases, there's more, the projects are more individual, and the group process is what you're really working at creating. In other cases, the group process is really there and people expect it, but getting the individual ownership is a little more work. So I'll show you those two sort of continuums. The Global Conversation is a course that takes place across universities, and particularly among students who are going to have an experience as a, what do you call them, student abroad, when you're going to go abroad. So this is a course taught by Jim Skelly, who's at the Peace Studies in Northern Ireland. And this picture, it's funny. I go to the site, I make the pictures there, I look at it, it turns up, and then I go away, and it doesn't turn up again. So it doesn't much matter that it doesn't show up, but it's a nice picture of kids yakking around the world. He puts, so this is, they're going to talk about issues of consumerism and globalism, oil, coal, energy, if you scroll down a little bit, alternate energy, global climate change, human population. So those are going to be the themes of the learning circles. And then the sections of the project could include, and so these are some ideas. They work together in circles, so they begin the process. I'm scrolling down. And they have a special forum that they have where the discussion takes place, and they also use Skype, and which is voice over the internet. And when they're done, they write a collective paper. Each student is responsible for formatting and making clear and organizing the part that they were the leader of, but together they address these different topics. So that's how. So here's their outline. So Learning Circle project proposals. So they each the whole circle has a proposal, and within each person in the circle proposes a project, and then they have their project is due at the end. They present them to the whole group, their findings on each of these different topics. And the students for this course are located in different countries, but they're all taking this class together. So that's their one. I'm going to now switch to my course. So, and is that working? You're seeing now Action Researchers Learning Circles? Yes?
Yes, I really appreciate the project and the demonstration. I think it's exciting. Okay,
good. So this shows what we do at Pepperdine. So there's, that's Cadre 8. That would actually be...
Margaret?
Yep.
I am not actually seeing the web page. Did you put it into the browser window in Illuminate? The web tour?
Yeah, I did. I'm in Illuminate, and I just clicked to it. You didn't go there, huh?
I did not.
Do
you have the follow me? Do you have the follow me clicked?
No. So you guys haven't been following me all the way along, huh? Okay. So can you guys click independently or not? Okay. So now I have follow me. So you should be seeing the global conversation, right?
Could you just put your cursor in there and hit enter so that
cursor in there and press enter.
In the address bar.
So what are you seeing right now?
I see onlinelearningscircles.org.
Right, but what page are you seeing? Is it not changing
the home
pages?
page.
You're just seeing the home page. Well, let me try. Actually, let me see.
Same here, the home page. Mm-hmm.
So you've been on the home page all the time, huh? All right. Let's see.
Yes.
Sites. So here I've been taking you all over, and let's try this.
And let Dr. Barner know where to go, only because he will need to navigate along with you. I now see you're pulling up sites.google.com.
Yeah, this is the same site, but the other one's a shorter way to get there, but it doesn't change for every page. So I think maybe that might help it. So let me see. I'm going to click now on the elementary students. Did it go there? Are you seeing?
Yes, I am seeing that now on the Learning Circles website.
Correct. So that's the elementary Learning Circles, and in this case, it connects kids all over the world. There are a number of different ones that, the one that I've been organizing is the iEarn one, but there are, the list of them are up on the top here. iEarn Learning Circles, Global Teenager Project, My Hero, United Beyond Diversity. So those are all examples of Learning Circle being used to connect kids in the elementary. This is the global conversation that I was talking about, and if you scroll down, you can each scroll, right? You have a scroll bar? Yes, okay. This is what I was just going over a little while ago. The students work in these different groups, and then I was going to shift to looking at Action Research Learning Circles. This is the group that I work with now, although I also still help with the elementary and secondary kids. But I put my group in Learning Circles, so these are examples of students working in the master's program in Learning Circles. And I've put a schedule so you can see the kind of work that we do for the fall, the spring, and the summer. So in the beginning, we open the circle with a description of self and workplace, and they identify problems to solve. Action Research is work-based problem solving and reflection on it. It's an iterative process. And then they create logic models, which they share. And I'm going to show you, hopefully in a voice thread in a few minutes, the kind of work that they do together, so that you can get some kind of sense of their work. In the second circle, they will actually be doing different cycles of their action research. And then in the last one, they will have their whole action research presented as a forum, as a symposium together. So they will be planning a conference symposium where each of them are presenting their work that has been continuously shaped by their interactions with one another. So that's, and I couldn't teach action research alone. If it were just me helping them, there wouldn't be enough of me to go around to help 20 people make change in their workplace. But by getting them into groups where other people really care about helping them figure out what the next step is. Some people are really good with helping their peers with technology, so are really good at helping them with their writing or their way of organizing their lit review or their way of thinking about things. So they get different help from different people, and by changing the learning circles every semester, they pretty much get help from everybody that's in the group. And they recognize that in order to get help from everybody, they have to give help to everybody. So it's a way of really using one of the most underutilized educational resource that we have, and that is our student skills. If we put their skills to work, we can solve most educational problems. Students learn a whole lot faster when they are in the teacher mode. And so the trick is to get everybody in the teacher mode, and that's what learning circles do, is they move people into leadership positions as opposed to having them be in a receptive, kind of slow learning enterprise. You can learn, you can learn in the receptive mode. We have been doing it for hundreds of years, but it's a slow way to learn if you want to speed up learning. And in this day and age, there's so much to learn. One of the ways that you can speed up learning is move people out of the role of learner and into the role of teacher, because we all know that you learn much faster when you take on a responsibility to teach something to somebody else. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you about on learning circles. I said I would show you, well, I'm open to any questions that you have. Is there anything that I can, yes?
I posed a question in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry, the chat. How do you address students that want you only to be the content expert? Well, that's easy, because I have them meet by themselves, and when they meet by themselves, they have to figure out what to do. And when they meet by themselves, I have them use a combination of Skype or whatever, or Google Plus, whatever they want to use to do the verbal part. But they also keep an Etherpad. And an Etherpad, have you seen an Etherpad before? Does anybody know what an Etherpad is? Let me see if I can. Etherpad.com. I think it's can you see why that's not loading?
Is it supposed to be iEtherpad, or is it .org?
iEtherpad. I don't think it's .org, but it might be. No. Let me, all right, there are lots of different ones. For some reason, iEtherpad isn't coming up right now, so I'm going to get another one. Okay, so here's another one. I'll put it in the. I lost you guys. Where are you? There you are. Okay. Okay, so this is an Etherpad this is when you go to LinkedIn, this is what you get, and if you say create a new public note, you get this. Okay, and each person who types here gets a different, oh, your browser, you guys aren't seeing it? Probably you guys can't join, you know. What we could do is outside of the virtual office, if you just type LinkedIn, I'd say right there. Well, let me just tell you that in this case, what happens, are you seeing the Etherpad right now? It says public note, right? Probably you tried to join it and you can't join it to Illuminate. It's actually not working. So you're not seeing the public note? You're seeing nothing on the screen right now? All right. Well, I invite you to go and look at LinkedIn afterwards, and you'll get a sense of how it works. Let's see. Okay, so if you follow that link that was just posted, okay, we've got two. Alan and I are in an Etherpad. But let me just say that an Etherpad is a space where everybody who types in color. So when they're in their learning circles, they keep an Etherpad open. They have one, and so that, and the people who aren't talking are taking notes. So it's a way to keep students who, you know, most of us when we're on these online conferences end up doing other things at the same time because we figure we can listen efficiently and do something else. So what I do is make that something else be something that's related to the learning. And so those people who aren't talking are those people who aren't you know, involved in the conversation are responsible for taking notes. And that way I can go and see what kinds of things happened in the learning circles when I wasn't there. So it's like having a transcript of the conversation. But most of the students work really hard together, and I've been impressed with what they do when I'm not there. And I have a evaluation of learning circles that I do every semester, and one of the questions I ask them is, do they think they get more help when I'm there or when I'm not there? To really get at how, you know, whether or not they really are getting benefit, you know, feel like they're getting benefit from when I'm not there. And I'd say about 50% over time will say that they get better help when I'm not there, which I don't take as an insult. I really think it's important that they work from each other, and they know that. So, you know, and I recognize that there are some people I can help because my life experiences line up with them, but there are other people who I really depend on the rest of the group to be their primary person, because it is so much based on the kind of teaching we do is based on life experiences. Now, in a course where you're the main person, the leader, the content person, there are so many other content people that you can point students to, and I think the more you enable them to find their content and teach content to other people, the further along you'll get. I know we're running out of time. I did want to show you VoiceThreads. Are you seeing VoiceThreads in the window now? Yes, no, yes, okay. So VoiceThreads is a way to actually annotate Okay, so you're not hearing the text. Okay, so I was hoping that you would, in fact, hear the text. But, so the way this, I'll just flip through. I gave a kind of introduction. These are their logic models, and you can see that the first person is actually talking. You can hear it now? So maybe so on each of these pages, what you see is the different way in which they put together their logic model, and and then their learning circle have have provided comments, and you'll notice that in most cases I'm the last to provide comments. I tend to encourage students to first comment on each other's work, because if I comment on it, then everybody follows whatever I say. So I wait until other people have given their comments, and I'm often impressed that they pick things to say that I would never say, but that are really brilliant. And it helps me. I learn from their comments, so that as I continue to help students over time, I've been well educated by my own students. And I think that's one of the things that, if I had the single thing to tell you why I think learning circles are important, it's because they serve as a way for me to be a conduit of really smart people's ideas over time. So by sharing their products, I share the students' projects I share the best students' products on CCIR. I'll show you one more last website. Each year, the best student products go into either this category or this category of action research projects, either with communities of practice or ones with students. And by keeping students' work over time, I actually have my new students study the work of my past students. So the collecting of student work that they know is going to be a tool for future learning, both for myself and for the other people who follow them, gives them a sense of purpose that's much deeper than you might get in a class. So the more you can share knowledge products from class to class, I think the deeper learning you'll get. We have this debate in our program because some people feel like it gets in the way of creativity to have people see examples from other students. But I think it forces them to dig deeper, to find something new, find some different way of doing something. So I save examples and I share examples from year to year. So observations from you, are there one of the things we do in learning circles at the end of our learning circle meeting. So when we meet online, the structure of the meeting is sort of a short, maybe 5-10 minute, how is everybody, what's going on, has anything exciting happened in your action research that you're dying to tell us. And then each person gets to lead the group for 10 minutes. They get 10 minutes of the group's time, and they can organize it any way they want. Sometimes they send you something to read ahead of time, and we comment on it. Sometimes they do a brainstorm with us. Sometimes they do a progress report. It's up to the person to decide how to use that time. And then at the end, we do a lightning round where we ask everybody in one sentence, what will they take away from this session? So maybe in that spirit, we'll do a lightning round here, and each of you can say, what is it that you heard today that you either would find useful in your teaching or that you would like to look at or find out more about. So I'll tag Han to go first since she's at the top of my list. Yes, are you there, hon?
Can I type it out?
Yeah, you can either talk or type. But what's one thing you'll take away from today? Okay.
Well, let me just say it. I teach a graphic design class, and creativity and innovation is very important in that class. So it's also hard for them to give each other positive feedback without hurting each other's feelings, because at the same time they're all doing this for the first time, creating any new design work. So I think I'm going to search through your site and kind of come up with some examples for them on how to be good stewards for each other's work.
Okay, and I'll send you that little screencast I made because that might be helpful to you.
Okay, thank you.
Alan and anyone who wants to just...
Margaret?
Daphne has something in the chat window.
Oh. Okay, thanks, Daphne. Robert?
Margaret, a fascinating presentation, and I would definitely like to begin implementing this in one of my ELA programs, classes, the social, political, economic, legal aspects of education. We're always having discussions, but we're always running out of time. And I'm trying to implement the 60-40 model each day, trying to look at ways of working with them online. So I am going to be looking at this when I'm away from them for the whole month, month and a half, that we can go online with several groups and discuss some of the issues or questions that I've posted for them to respond to. And I think this is going to be an excellent way for me to work with my master students in at least 649 A and B.
Good. And if you need any help, I'm happy to help. Yeah.
Oh, I have your extension.
Right. I really appreciate this. I was going to use going more blended learning, and I think the learning will really help the projects that we do in the field, consulting to organizations in multiple countries, as well as health.
And your voice is really hard to understand. I don't know, it was clear before, but it's kind of muddled. Maybe.
I'm muddled now.
Yeah, we can't hear it.
Okay.
Maybe you could just put something in the text. Anyone else? I know
Dr.
we
Williams
are
added
over
something
time.
to the chat.
I realize you've been students to keep running notes at Etherpad. That works really well, and we do it for all of our meetings. We do it for faculty meetings too. It's amazing how effective it can be when everyone is really geared in, not just half listening. So, you know, if you're not able to give your idea in the moment, students type it in. So if somebody says something and it triggers a reference that they think is important or an idea that they don't want to lose, they put it in the group dialogue. And so we're really both listening and watching. In some cases, watching the exact same thing that's being said. In other cases, it's an extra channel. Why Etherpad over Google Docs? Google Docs tells you when the person is writing, but it doesn't tell you who contributed what. What I like about Etherpad is everyone has a different color, and if people are really engaged, you see a rainbow of colors on the page. If somebody is doing all of the note-taking, you pretty much realize who that person is. So it gives me a sense of evaluation. When I look over the Etherpad for a learning circle, I can tell right away who's at least doing the work of kind of collecting notes. The colors, the students that are quiet in other places tend to be quiet in Etherpad too. So it's just one more kind of marker of who the active participants are.
And the video of that is kind of cool too when you play it back and you get to see how the document kind of
That's right. It has a slider
grew.
that shows every keystroke. So you can unslide it and then slide it forward and watch the conversation evolve. And you can see where there were long pauses with no one typing and when there was really active typing. It's kind of fun. And there are lots of different Etherpads. I use ietherpad.com, and I don't know why it wasn't coming up, but SyncedIn is my second choice. It was sold, Etherpad was originally sold to Google, and is part of what makes Google Plus pretty cool. Any other comments as we close up the session?
Thank you so much, Margaret, for offering your insights and experience and sharing these websites with us.
Well, you're very welcome, and I, have enjoyed developing online teaching skills. It's really kind of a fun way to learn or a fun way to teach because it puts you in the learner mode more strongly. It's a little more work, but what I get out of it is so much more powerful than when I got out of face-to-face teaching. It's, in face-to-face teaching, what I got is more development of my ideas because you had to share them, and in sharing them, you develop them. But what I get from online teaching is really a very rich instruction from my students. A lot more time giving feedback, but it's interesting what kinds of things their ideas pull out from my ideas. It's different every semester. And so I feel like I'm in that constant mode of learning along with the students. And I guess with that, we'll call it a wrap. And thank you all for coming. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to think about different ways of organizing learning.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it's always hard to figure out how to leave. We know how to leave face-to-face settings. We have a little bit of trouble with virtual settings, who walks out first. You can't walk out in groups. So there's always a little bit of a, challenge to think about what the ending of a session is. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off.